What happens when one of Australia's most beloved young conservationists walks into what he believes will be a light, friendly morning talk show, only to be ambushed by a host clearly carrying a personal grudge? What unfolds next is one of the most uncomfortable, jaw-dropping live TV confrontations in recent memory. And trust me, no amount of preparation will brace you for just how fast this spirals out of control. But before we dive head first into this chaotic collision, pause for 1 second. Hit that subscribe button and tell me in the comments, should TV hosts be allowed to grill guests without doing even basic research? Because what you're about to witness is a masterclass in how poor preparation can ignite a public meltdown. Robert Irwin, the son of the legendary Steve Irwin, arrived on The View with genuine excitement. He was there to talk about his new wildlife docuseries and his ongoing conservation work around the globe. At just 20 years old, Robert had already spent the week hopping from show to show, effortlessly winning over audiences with his warmth, humility, and unwavering dedication to carrying forward his family's mission. Every interview before this one followed the same pattern. The hosts were welcoming. The questions were respectful, and Robert's sincerity shone through every time. But this appearance would be different, very different. Because Joy Behar wasn't interested in another feel-good conversation, she had an agenda. The moment Robert stepped onto the stage, the atmosphere shifted. The usual warmth was replaced by a stiff, almost theatrical smile from Joy. The rest of the panel felt unusually quiet, as if they sensed what was coming, but felt powerless to stop it. Robert, polite as ever, greeted the hosts and the audience with his trademark enthusiasm, completely unaware he was walking straight into an ambush. Welcome back to The View, Joy said, her tone sharp and cutting. Today we're joined by Robert Irwin, wildlife conservationist and son of the late Steve Irwin. Then she leaned forward. Robert, there's something I've been wanting to ask you. Robert shifted slightly but stayed composed. Of course, Joy. Joy didn't hesitate. She narrowed her eyes and fired. She said she'd watched his interviews and documentaries and couldn't help but wonder if he was simply coasting on his father's legacy. What, she asked bluntly, had he actually accomplished on his own? The studio instantly froze. You could feel the air change. Robert's smile faltered for just a split second before he steadied himself, responding with the calm professionalism of someone who'd heard this accusation before. He explained that he'd been involved in conservation since childhood, had helped rescue thousands of animals, worked with endangered species programs, and devoted his life to protecting wildlife. But Joy wasn't satisfied. That's exactly the problem. She snapped. He was still continuing his father's work. Where was his own identity? She accused him of copying Steve Irwin, dressing like him, acting like him, playing dress-up and cocky, she said, and demanded to know when he'd finally step out of his father's shadow. The tension on the panel was unmistakable. Whoopi looked ready to step in, but Joy barreled forward. Robert took a slow breath, choosing his words carefully. He explained that conservation was never about ego or personal branding. It was about the mission. Whether he expanded existing work or launched new initiatives, the goal was always the same: protecting wildlife. Joy scoffed. She rolled her eyes. She dismissed his response as convenient and then delivered a line that cut deep. She accused him of being afraid to step out on his own because he might not measure up. Then she went further, telling the 20-year-old it was time to grow up instead of running around with animals. That was the moment everything changed. Robert's expression hardened. The polite TV smile vanished, replaced by something raw and controlled. He repeated her words, playing with animals, his accent thickening as he spoke. He asked Joy if she had any idea what his work actually involved. Then he laid it out. He talked about rescuing a koala and her Joey from raging bushfires. He described breeding programs that reintroduced echidnas to regions where they had been extinct for decades. When Joy tried to interrupt, Robert pushed forward, his voice steady but powerful. He said he grew up watching his father relocate venomous snakes to protect families. He helped run a wildlife hospital that had treated over 100,000 injured animals. This wasn't a game. This wasn't a costume. It was responsibility. The studio went dead silent, but Joy misread the moment and pushed even harder. She dismissed his passion as emotion and doubled down, saying facts mattered. She claimed his fame existed only because of his last name. Without it, she said, he'd just be another kid pretending to be a zookeeper. Maybe, she suggested, it was time for him to find a real job. Robert went completely still. Everyone, Recognize that posture, the pause right before someone either stands up or snaps. A real job, Robert repeated, and so quietly it almost slipped past the microphones. Then he looked straight at Joy. Do you know what my father was doing the day he died? Joy's expression changed instantly. She hadn't expected this turn. The studio leaned in. He was filming a documentary about stingrays. Robert continued, his voice growing steadier, stronger. Not for fame, not for money. He did it so people could understand animals the world had misunderstood for generations. Joyce swallowed. He died doing what he loved, educating the public and protecting creatures that don't have a voice. And then Robert cut deeper. You want to talk about real careers. He said, my dad could have made millions turning Australia Zoo into a theme park. He could have chased cheap ratings and easy money. Instead, he chose conservation and education, and I'm proud to continue that work. For the first time, Joy looked truly rattled. Robert leaned forward. Every single day, I work to honor that legacy, not because I'm writing coattails, but because the work matters. Species are disappearing while we sit here debating. Animals are dying while you make jokes about khakis. Whoopi tried to step in, attempting to cool the room, but it was too late. Robert wasn't finished. Let's talk about your comments, Joy, he said calmly, almost surgically. You didn't ask questions. You attacked my character. You dismissed my work. You mocked conservation. So let me ask you something. Would you say the same things to David Attenborough, to Jane Goodall? Joy opened her mouth. No words came out. And here's what really gets me. Robert continued. You're criticizing someone who spends his life saving animals while you sit on television giving opinions. You want to talk about impact. How many species have you helped preserve? The studio gasped. Joy stiffened, clearly flustered, and tried one final jab. Maybe you just needed someone to tell you the truth. Not everyone thinks you're special because of your name. That was the breaking point. Robert stood up instantly. Special because of my name, he repeated, his voice calm, but ice cold. Do you have any idea what that name actually means? He stood tall, unshakable. It means waking up before sunrise to care for animals. It means learning crocodile behavior as a child. It means carrying a world-changing responsibility on your shoulders. Joy tried to regain control. Robert, sit down. I'm not sitting down. He snapped. You ambushed me. You belittled my work. You insulted my father. And now you're asking for respect. Off camera, security shifted uneasily. You want respect. Do your research. Ask better questions. Learn the difference between entertainment and meaningful work. Robert unclipped his microphone. I came here to talk about endangered species and conservation, he said. Instead, you turned this into a personal attack for ratings. So thank you for reminding me why I do this work, why my father did this work, and why conservation matters more than anything happening at this table. He placed the microphone down and looked straight into the camera. If you actually care about wildlife, he said, go look up the work we're doing at Australia Zoo because unlike some people, we're trying to make the world better. And with that, Robert Irwin walked off the set. Joy Behar sat frozen. The panel was speechless. The audience didn't move. Millions watching at home couldn't believe what they'd just seen. The camera lingered on Joy long enough for the shock to fully register. Then the show abruptly cut to commercial. Robert Irwin didn't just defend himself that day. He defended conservation, he defended his father, and he defended every creature that can't speak for itself. So now I want to hear from you. Was Robert justified? Did Joy cross the line? Drop your thoughts in the comments and make sure you subscribe for more unbelievable, unfiltered TV moments like